Hello. When we talk about communication skills, we talk of the receptive skills of listening and reading and the productive skills of speaking and writing. Listening, of course, is a nature-given faculty. But for all that, if you want to develop it as a skill, listening, of course, is a nature-given faculty. But for all that, if you want to develop it as a skill, if you want to become a good listener, there is some hard work involved. When it comes to listening to a foreign language, a brand new code has to be learned. And that too, at an age when learning has slowed down. Reading is not a natural skill. And that's why we spend years as children learning the alphabet and the written form of the language. Speaking, again, is a nature-given faculty. But because it is a productive activity, something a speaker has to do, it needs more learning than mere listening. Now, writing is not only a productive activity, it is also artificially learned. It is not a natural skill, and that makes it doubly difficult. Writing in one's own mother tongue is difficult enough. It becomes still more difficult when you are learning to write in a foreign language. Speaking comes easier than writing because when you're speaking face to face with somebody, you're using not only words but your entire body to communicate. You are using the tonal variations of your voice. Researchers have found out that in face-to-face communication, around 93% of the burden of the message is carried by gestures and tone, and only 7% by the words that you use. That's why when you can't find the words, you use facial expressions, you use the gestures of your hands and your shoulders. The responses of your listener are also coming immediately. So you get into responses and counter responses to get the message across. When you're speaking on the phone, then of course the visual sources disappear. And to that extent, communication becomes difficult. But you still have the help of tonal variations to make the effort at communicating. And of course, you have the instant feedback to make sure that the message is going in the right direction. But when you write, both these extremely important supports disappear. All that you are now left with are words. And because of this, you need a large supply of words to frame your message. You also need to put the words in the right structure for the message to be correctly understood. Punctuation marks, as you know, are critical indications for tonal variations for the reader. So you have to master punctuations too. So yes, writing is a good deal harder to master than speaking. While speaking, you may cover the laziness or the inadequacy of your language through body language, but there is no scope at all for laziness when you are writing. Now, if you are one of those lucky people who can express themselves well in their own mother tongue, then you will find learning to express yourself in a foreign language easy too. If you can draft a good letter, if you can tell a story well in your mother tongue, transferring this skill to a foreign language is just a matter of learning the mechanics of that language. So, as I see it, there are two skill sets required to be good at writing. The second skill set is the ability to organize one's message according to the nature of the message, understanding the needs and the abilities of the reader of the message, and tailoring the message accordingly. This ability to draft is a very important skill set. This skill, of course, requires an instinctive understanding of how the message should be best packaged. It requires a sharp understanding of the reader's psychology and years of reading to become good at drafting your message well. The first skill of learning the mechanics of the language is a comparatively easy skill. So, how does one learn to write? Skill is kaushalya, and any skill you can think of, any kaushalya, improves with doing, and only with doing. There is absolutely no shortcut here. It is a lot of hard work, unending work. Now, here is a practical tip on what you can do for a start. The first thing that you have to overcome is the fright of seeing an empty page. How do you break out of that fear? So, do not think of any big topic. Just begin writing about whatever you see in front of you. So, if you see a flower pot, just write about that flower pot as you see it. If you see somebody's head from behind, just write that. If you see a dog in front of you, write about the dog. Write. Okay? So do not bother at all either about the grammar or about the. ये फिर से करता मैं मेरा नजर इधर चली गई थी. No, don't worry. Do not bother at all either about the grammar or the spelling or the sequence of your sentences. To begin with, don't even bother whether it makes complete sense. Very importantly, at this stage, do not be afraid of making mistakes. Okay, so can you write about whatever you see in front of you for at least, say, 5 continuous minutes? If you can do this 5-minute writing twice a day, you will obviously get over your fear faster and learn the skill faster. Do this for the first week. If you work with enough determination, you will find that words begin to come easier to you. The more you write, the better. Make your sentences small. Make your sentences small and manageable. Now, as you continue with your 5-minute writing exercise, almost automatically you will begin writing on some subject. You may write about your mother, your friend, your motorbike, your dog, about yesterday's event, about tomorrow's plans. So, once you have started feeling comfortable with pen and paper, here is the next thing that you can do with complete ease. Read up a good, sufficiently easy passage, a poem, shut the book, and then write it down in your own words. Even if you are using the exact words from the passage or the poems, it doesn't matter. The really important thing here is that you should pick up a piece that is only a little tougher than you can manage. If you pick up on something that's too easy, you will not gain anything. If you pick up on something too tough, you will stop trying in 1 week's time. That's why when people start reading an English newspaper for improving the language, in my opinion, it's not a good idea. The language there is so tough that people soon give up on it. So, reading newspapers and magazines and listening to the news will help only when you have reached a certain level of efficiency. So, how do you get reading material of the level that you need? Difficult? Very easy. Go to the English textbook you had done in your previous year. When you were reading that book, your intention was passing the examination. So your entire attitude towards that book was different. Now, when you go back to it, go with the intention of learning the language. It's quite possible that you may find the previous year's book difficult to handle because you managed only 35% marks. In which case, you go to the year previous to that. Just keep going back year-wise till you find the difficulty level that suits you. So see, there is no shortage of material at all. Everything is so easily available. You could go to books that are taught in the English medium schools. The most important thing, I'm repeating, the most important thing is to find the right difficulty level and from there start moving upwards. So what do? You read the material and you rewrite it after reading. You may do all the exercises that come after the material. When you have done enough of this, you will find that you have even begun thinking in English. And that is a very important movement forward. Once you have got sufficient comfort in this, the next thing that you can do now is to go to the mother language books that you did in school and college and use the material there for translating into English. Again, it is important to go to the right difficulty level for translation. The Marathi thing that you are reading is going to be simple enough, but if you can't find the right words in English for it, then maybe that Marathi is too tough. Go to a simpler text in Marathi so that you find conversion into English easy. Now, in these efforts, what you have been mainly focusing on is the first of the two skill sets that I had mentioned. The mechanics of writing, the gathering of a decent vocabulary, the ability to write decently correct sentences using a fair mix of different structures. But even while your primary focus has been on the mechanics, you have also been unconsciously learning the second skill set that I talked about. How to create your own messages, how to express your own ideas. Now, this second skill set requires that you nicely understand the needs and abilities of the reader and pitch your message accordingly. You are now ready to get into developing the skill of creative writing. Look, the basic unit of expression in any piece of prose writing is a paragraph. So, before you venture into writing creative pieces of your own, you should learn to write compact paragraphs. A good paragraph generally contains one single idea, which is called the topic sentence. Now, that is the message that you are putting across. So, a good formula for beginners is what I call the PREP formula. P-R-E-P, PREP. P is the point, the statement of whatever single idea you wish to put across. R is the reasons for your idea, how you can support the idea, what evidence you can bring along, what is the rationale of your point. E is giving examples to support your point. It can include endorsements, quotations, analogues, etc. And the final P is the point again. It is representation as more or less established.